Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. We're going to get rocking and rolling. It's a quasi-beautiful day out there, but I'll still give it credit. We're going to get started right now with today's training about essential services. Actually, in 2 seconds, I want to give a tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I really appreciate that you do. My tip for you today is around LinkedIn and LinkedIn engagement. Networking through social media, in particular LinkedIn. That's really the only place government contractors will have any kind of success in networking. Excuse me. And so on LinkedIn, my tip for you is when you engage with others, right? Whether it's me and the posts that I do, or more importantly, it's federal buyers and program office folks that you're seeing posting out there. When you comment, only comment with something that enhances the conversation. Otherwise, don't bother commenting at all, right? Thumbs up is okay. A repost with no comments is the best thing because it pushes it to your network. And then all your network comes back and looks here at the original post. But the reason I was thinking about this tip is I want you to, if you're doing this or you're considering this, I want you to stop doing AI in chat or in comments. I've seen people do this. And the reason it's vitally important for you to stop is because those of us who put something out, whether it's me, a federal buyer, et cetera, we'll see it for a little bit. Pretty soon we'll just get tired of it and say, unfollow. And so then we'll never see your stuff again because you've been posting stuff like, whatever LinkedIn puts at the bottom, we just go, intriguing. I'm like, what are you talking about intriguing? I asked a question kind of thing, right? But if I wrote a question or if I put a document out and you took a minute to look in the document and you're like, oh, I really aligned to goal 3. Thanks for sharing that. Or more importantly, if federal buyers share content and you engage in some substantive way, and I mean just a sentence or two, it doesn't have to be long, but it means you actually looked at it. You will find that from a marketing perspective, you sink more and more into their memories. And then they begin to go, well, who is this person commenting on my post in a way that's driving my post forward by engaging in the conversation? So that's just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I appreciate it. Laura, I see somebody. Oh, I saw that post. I've been meaning to get back to you on it. I'm assuming it's like Chris Moffitt, maybe some others. But that was great. So if you're not seeing the chat, Laura is writing here. She was at a physical event and saw somebody from the virtual events that I do. So that's super exciting. Okay, let's get rocking and rolling. I got a lot to do, and I got 28 minutes to do it in. So today we're going to be talking about essential services in HHS, and I'll explain what that means. But most importantly, how do you have success in HHS, right? And how do you have success in the government? But I like starting the training. Excuse me, I'm kind of got this lingering cough from a cold. I want to start with just this truism or reality check, because as much as I try to be optimistic, I don't want to be dismissing reality. DOGE is hammering everybody. They're hammering the federal employees. HHS themselves saw a 10% cut, right? So and I wrote 10% start because some of these agencies are going to have 20, 30% of their workforce cut. And this is staggering. Inside of HHS, CDC has already had 10% cuts. And so these are big deals inside our federal buyer. It's really important for us to be tracking on that. I want you to go back and look at last week's training if you can. I have the replays available. And in there, I talk about being empathetic or at least understanding what the federal buyer is going through, and you'll be able to put it in perspective. Small and large contractors, we're getting hammered. Obviously, you're seeing it with smalls, but even larges. DOGE is going after the very largest multi-billion-dollar companies like GDIT and Booz Allen, et cetera. And they're going after that. I put an example here of where they just went after $65 billion, trying to cut these contracts away. They're in negotiation, but they're just keep going around. They have just gotten started. In particular, yesterday I gave this example because I talked about VA. They cut 585 non-essential contracts. And theen are all professional service contracts. And in preparation of today's training, I was looking at this. Even in HHS, right? 62 contracts have been canceled out there. These things are happening. These are a reality. But what do you do about it, right? And that's the purpose of this training on essential services in HHS and how to DOGE-proof your company, this is the exact guidance that we give to our customers when we're coaching them. And we're talking about how do you move forward. Times have changed from just last year to this year. Times have changed. And so understanding the guidance, I work with them to make it happen. And here in the training, I tell you what I'm doing with them. I want you to go get this book. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? Get it and read it, and it'll give you a little bit of perspective of what we're going through. Fundamentally, Who Moved My Cheese means the cheese or the contracts used to come out of the station. It was reliable. We'd show up, and there they are. But somebody moved our cheese. DOGE in this case, right? Where is our cheese? And this book fundamentally is saying you got to put your tennis shoes on, go back out into the maze, and try to find the cheese, find out where the contracts are. That's what I'm trying to help you with in today's training, is to talk a little bit about, I think the cheese is here and here. Actual finding that cheese, that's going to be your responsibility because it's aligned to your company's offering. So let's dive into making your company essential to HHS. I'm going to break the training up into 3 sections. First off, I just want to talk about what is essential at HHS, their mission critical function areas. Then I'm going to talk about how you can protect existing contracts you have with HHS from DOGE or against DOGE's efforts out there. And when I talk about protecting against DOGE or DOGE proof, I'm not trying to fight them, right? I don't like the brutality of what's going on. But what I mean is, this is the Trump administration. He's in charge. And so I look at this and I go, well, how is that customer spending money? What are they buying and how are they buying it, et cetera? And I'm relearning that process. And so when I say going against DOGE, I mean, I used to have a target on my chest for DOGE, and now I'm trying to get the target off. That's kind of what I mean when I say how to protect yourself. And then the last thing I'm going to cover is steps you can take to start finding essential opportunities. And so we'll dive into that. Do me a favor as we go forward, put your company name and what city and state you're coming out of. Let people know the chat is your community, and we shouldn't have to go this alone. So I bring people together. You just have to connect and go say, hey, Elizabeth, let's connect offline. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil Coughing McDonald. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. This is what I want for you. Yesterday, Jay Madigan, who's on here, said part of my process needs to be staying hydrated. If you haven't done so already, connect with me or follow my LinkedIn profile on LinkedIn, right? I put out a lot of good content. For example, I put out content yesterday about DOE. They had to cancel their big event, but they're really committed to working with smalls. And so they're trying to figure out what's going on. And as I engage with DOE and maybe even be able to collaborate with them, I'll be letting you know on LinkedIn. And so when you follow me or connect on LinkedIn, you're going to be able to track on that. If you haven't followed our newsletter, the Government Contracting Success newsletter, I think we're almost at 23,000 subscribers. We're the largest GovCon newsletter on LinkedIn. And it's because we keep putting out valuable information. I'd love to have you join us in that newsletter. And the last thing is tomorrow, we're doing training. Tomorrow's my last day of training for this week, and it'll be about the Air Force. How do you look into the Air Force and see what's essential to them and make your company essential to them? Okay, let's talk about essential, right? HHS has mission critical services that it does, or what is considered essential. And if you haven't been here day in and out through this week, I just want to start with what is essential and not essential. Essential services are mission critical. So every agency has a core mission that it needs to accomplish. HHS, you'll see right here, it's to uphold public health and safety. So anything that's tied to that are essential services. And anything that is not directly tied to that, then it's considered non-essential. HHS has got about 55% of their spend is considered non-essential. And this is a really important thing to keep in mind. And that 55%, by the way, is of contract spend, not of, because they got like $1 trillion something for Medicaid, Medicare. But anyways, essential and non-essential. It's really important to understand just this fundamental thing. And are you tying it to the priority that's out there? Commercial companies have this exact same situation. I think sometimes we think because of continuing resolutions where the government's not passing its budget, and then we're looking at essential or non-essential, and we forget that no, literally that's the exact same thing companies have. If you have a company that has 10 or more people in it, minimum, if you have that, guaranteed you're going to be able to look at that and say, well, these people are operating essential or doing essential work for the company. These other people are doing not essential. Doesn't mean it's not important. It's just you might tie essential to the word urgency. So let's dive. That's a high level understanding of essential and non-essential, right? And it's really important to understand essential, mission critical, non-essential is support functionality. And I'll get more specific here. So HHS, this agency, this department exists specifically to uphold public safety and health. And this is really important. I can't only do so much talking to you today, but I'd encourage you, if you're targeting HHS and an agency downstream, to go learn more about what each one of these agencies has. In my research, I did all that and I found it. It's just too much information to share in 30 minutes. But at a high level, I just put down 3 mission critical areas that if I was looking at HHS and pursuing it, that I need to be paying attention to. So the first is public health emergency preparedness, right? Can we prepare for COVID? Can we prepare for any of these things coming at us? Anything you do around that is essential work. That is, going back to public health and safety, that is the core functionality of the Department of Health and Human Services. And so if you can touch on that, then you're essential. The next one is Medicare and Medicaid services. And I put a couple of bullets in here about protecting and improving Medicare for our nation's seniors. That's the idea behind Medicare. And on the Medicaid side, a little bit Medicare too, maybe, but on the Medicaid side, combat fraud and waste is a big mission critical task within that program. Those are programs, Medicare and Medicaid. And the idea is they've got billions of dollars in spend or whatever. If you can come in and support that in one way or another, then you're supporting their mission critical task. You just have to understand how what you do ties into those mission critical areas. And I'll talk about this in a second. The third one that I put down are critical regulatory enforcements. And these are huge. And this is where sometimes we see a lot of noise. With DOGE, it's a whole different situation, but this is not new. This noise that goes on with the government saying essential and not essential, because we do these continuing resolutions, which means when the government doesn't pass a budget, it kind of kicks the decision for the budget downstream a month or 3 months down the road. And sometimes they do government shutdowns of a day or a week or 30 days. And when that happens, we're looking at this. And so critical regulatory enforcement, I hear about this, I think, more than anywhere else, is like chicken and cattle inspections and that type of stuff. Because that's what these some of these responsibilities or function areas are for organizations like FDA, safety of food, drug, biological products like the vaccines, and medical devices, right? And so all that food that I'm talking about, there's inspectors who go all around the country and are trying to make sure our food is safe. And these are things that are vital out there, but there's certain levels of balance on that. And so it's really important to understand that. And then the second bullet I had for critical regulatory enforcement is disease surveillance and outbreak response. And this is in CDC, right? This is their core functionality. The problem we have right now with the Trump administration is there's kind of an attack on CDC and this kind of response to COVID. It's just something to acknowledge, right? I don't try to play on sides when I'm here doing the training, but it's important for us to understand this is what CDC does. How do we fit in there, especially for all of our Atlanta friends supporting CDC very actively down there. But these are the main function areas that I decided to group all of HHS's mission critical tasks into. And when they're doing this, then they're directly upholding the public health and safety requirement that HHS has. Very briefly, I just want to talk about what's not essential. And one of the things to keep in mind, this is common across the board. This first bullet I have is research grants and scientific programs. you're hearing about, hopefully you're paying attention to the news, and you're hearing about HHS getting, or NIH getting hit. And then all across the country, scientists and people doing experiments, innovation, et cetera, are complaining because the funds have dropped down and their efforts have been interrupted. Well, this is standard across all agencies, is that research and innovation takes a back seat to the mission critical stuff. Basically, you think about the work, if it's targeting some benefit way farther down the line, the easier it is to consider it not essential, right? There's some exceptions, but for the most part, that's the rule. If it targets today's immediate activity that we need to do, it's essential. Second one is public health grants and initiatives. This is another huge one that's been in the news out there. And so a lot of the funding that goes out is gone. This one hit very close to home for me because I didn't know this until I prepared the slides about HHS on some of these things: chronic disease prevention, health education campaigns, and global health initiatives. And so basically this is outreach, community outreach, et cetera. My wife has a chronic disease and she's got MS, and she's doing fine, but this has been a big part of our life since she was diagnosed in 98, right? So I've been tracking on this kind of thing. And there's so many people out there who depend on it and so many people who support that. Well, these are non-essential tasks for HHS, considered non-essential. And then last one is administrative and auxiliary. This is standard across every single agency, is anywhere in like the headquarters, extra offices, administrative activity, that stuff goes down. This is why I'm going to go into the next couple of slides where I'm saying, how do you align yourself to the mission critical areas? Before I do, I wanted to ask you to put one thing in, especially since my friend David Waltz from the Navy, he's a small business professional over in the Navy, and he's always trying to sit there and help you figure out how you can get in there. He's also pointing out which NAICS codes he's tracking on. But do me a favor, put into the chat, I sell this to federal agencies. And what I mean by is like we sell SharePoint services to federal agencies. Just 1, 2, or 3 words in the middle of that sentence that tells people, oh, that's what you sell. So I don't read a big block of text, but I just look over and I say, ARW Solutions. We sell janitorial services and all things cleaning, right? So it's a little longer than I would have done, but I got exactly what AR Solutions is saying, right? Janitorial services and all things cleaning. I'm like, okay, I got that. You want what you sell to be memorable in our heads, and this is a great place to practice because you'll put the word out to the people who are here, the tons of people who watch this on my replays afterwards. It also goes out on your network. So go ahead and do that. Let us know who's out there. Before I go too much farther, I just wanted to thank the sponsors of our lives. I'm starting to do sponsors now in here. We don't take any funding from the federal government for all this training. We've done well over 600 in the last 3 years. So I just want to thank Graham Inc., who does staffing and American Sign Language services, and Steel Toed, who does cybersecurity and CMMC services. I'm excited with Steel Toed being on. They're in our marketplace as well on GovCon in a Box. But if you're looking to get CMMC certified, definitely talk to Steel Toed. And if you're a company trying to reach small businesses out there, talk to me about the last 2 spaces. Okay, let's talk about how to protect your current contracts out there. There you go. I appreciate people putting it in there into the chat. I get to see what you sell. So let's talk about when you think about your current contracts at HHS, you got to protect it from DOGE. You've got to operate as if DOGE is coming for your contract. There's a million contracts out there, but they're coming for yours. And it's really important to operate that way because this is called risk management. With risk management, we can avoid a risk completely by doing something, which I'm hoping I'll give you a tip on. We can mitigate that risk. So if it happens to us, like an example is if DOGE is going to cancel my contract, my mitigation is put my people on another one. Excuse me. And then the last one is to accept the risk, just roll over and die. That's not acceptable. So in here, what I want you to first do is to take your contract scope and look at the task areas and align your contract task areas to HHS's strategic priorities. Align it to those top level strategic priorities coming from HHS, and then follow that down to subordinate agencies. And I'll talk about that in the next slide, I think. The second thing I want you to do is tie your current contract to that overarching upholding public health and safety mission of HHS. You need to be able to communicate, how is my contract, this contract, supporting the overall strategic essential mission of HHS? And so think about that. The third one is when you're looking at HHS strategic plans or CDC or NIH, when you're looking at their plans, they talk about mission critical tasks in there. They don't generally talk about non-essential. They're only talking about essential function areas within their strategic plans, their annual reports, their budgets, right? And so look at the language they're using and weave that into any report. If you've got to talk to your core or your KO and you start submitting weekly or monthly reports, start getting that mission critical language in there. Maybe get rid of words like administrative and figure out a different way to say that. That's what I kind of coach our customers on. The second one is on bullet 3 is Elon Musk is really demanding not just once, but continuously for federal employees. Hey, what did you do last week? Give me 5 bullets. Well, first off, you should start doing the same thing, require the same thing from your employees. Some people consider it micromanagement, but while you're complaining about that, DOGE is coming for you, right? So sometimes we have to play by the rules and just tell your staff and yourself, hey, we're just trying to have clarity and to make our contracts DOGE proof. And the best way we can do that is to start saying, you don't even have to send it, but start writing what was 5 things we did last week and weave in critical mission strategy language in there, mission priorities. The fourth bullet, this one is document why your contract is essential. So you're talking about it in reports. Well, here, I want you to have a one-pager that says why this contract aligns with HHS or CDC's mission priorities, right? Essential work. So engage with your contracting officer, your core, your program manager, and talk with them about this and get their help on writing this down. They went through all the work to get you on board. They don't want your contract to be closed. Right? So talk with them and get together on that language. Include your subcontractors, their staff, and your staff who are working on a contract. All of you come together and say, hey, let's just validate this is an essential contract. And now let's document why it's an essential contract. So here's a sales strategy that I use and any of us who are good at sales use is role playing, right? Role playing is before I go into a sales call, then I'm going to sit there and try to bounce off of you my pitch. Here's my deck, and here's what I'm going to talk about. I might try to sell you on something, and your job is to basically kind of act like the customer and then throw some objections at me. And I got to get good at handling either questions, like how many employees do you have? It's like, why do you care? Or objections, your price is too high. Too high? And so that's role playing, right? And I want you to role play with DOGE. Somebody in your company needs to be DOGE. They need to act as if they want to get rid of your contract, or they need to come in with a level of arrogance that goes, I don't think your contract's essential. It's like, yeah, it is. Prove it, right? And so everybody on your company has to prove it to the person in your company or on your team who's going to act like DOGE. When you do this, then you're doing everything you can to take that bullseye off your contract chest. Okay, so let's talk about steps you can take to find opportunities. I only got 7 minutes left, so I'll go pretty fast. But the first one is we talk about this a lot, and a clear focus offer. This is your core competency. So in government contracting, we say, what's your core competency? And what that is a clear focused offer. Somebody can understand, I sell digital transformation services. It's like, okay, AWS and Cisco. So they threw in a couple of large companies in there. But I'm looking at that and I'm like, okay, Binta, I understand what you sell. Map that service now. Like if I just stick with digital transformation, that's too broad. I would encourage you to come down further, but to map it to the mission critical functions we discovered when we did our research to understand what is HHS selling. If you can't directly align those, and you need to look at your company and say, if I want to sell to the government and to HHS, I need to maybe create a new one or a change, right? I'm working with customers who are kind of looking at maybe abandoning their core, but using their core expertise in a new offering that's a kind of an AI play. Well, these are things you can do, right? And so everybody should have an AI play when you look in here. But whatever your service is, you should be able to look in there and go, how can it align to the mission critical tasks? If you can't figure that out, I would encourage you to talk to your Apex accelerators. You're like David Walsh is in here. Call up and say, hey, do you see this as aligning, or is it non-essential and I'm just going to be out of luck for a while? Second thing is understand HHS's agencies. So you got HHS, then NIH and CMS and CDC, et cetera. Understand their missions and essential functions, right? When you understand that exercise I've talked above about, you can begin to align to those subordinate agency priorities. Number 3, update your marketing assets. Look at your capability statement, capability briefing deck, your website, whatever it is. And first thing you should do is kind of purge anything that looks like language. But more importantly, take that mission critical tasks that HHS has and the way they describe it. So if I stick with digital transformation, I would go look in and see what HHS is saying about digital transformation and what part of digital transformation is important, right? And when you do that, weave that back into your marketing assets. That way, when they're floating around within the federal buyer's world within HHS, people can see it aligning to a mission. They don't just see it as a product. Number 4, so everything I talked about to a degree has been research. I teach a 7-step process for federal revenue success. Research, targeting, outreach lead to relationships, opportunities, proposals, and sales. And if you haven't seen that, I'll show it to you another day. But the whole idea behind targeting is to build a list of 200 people that you can reach out to. This is a lead list. Sometimes people go to a conference and they get a bunch of cards, and that's a lead list. You might put an ad out on LinkedIn or something, and you get a bunch of names. That's a lead list. Those are lead lists that, to me, are far less quality than if you determine who you want to target. So say, for example, at HHS, I want to go into CMS because I'm thinking Medicare and Medicaid. I'm going to go into CMS, and I think they'll still have money, maybe even get more money. So I'm going to go in there. Well, I need to find 200 people. When I do that, I'm going to build a list of, let's say, 100 people who are 100 people who are in CMS as government employees. I'm going to find small business primes that are winning, large businesses that are winning. But you can build that 200 list of people, so then you can reach out and start making calls. And this is what you need to do. You need to schedule those intro calls to set up a meeting with John Smith or Jane Smith, right? To talk to them about what you sell and what they need. And it needs to be around the critical areas. Make sure, though, before you go to the meetings, that you're fully versed on what they're selling or what they're buying, right? And what their mission critical priorities are. You don't have to do all that research before you schedule the meeting. If you want to know how to do that, just go watch previous training. I talk about how to schedule a meeting, how to prepare for it, but don't ever do research heavily about a person or their office until they schedule a meeting. Then you can do it. But make sure you're prepared to go in and talk about their mission critical areas, because that's what DOGE and President Trump are forcing on them. That's what's in their mind when they're starting to talk to vendors these days. Is they're not here to be nice. They're here to sit there and figure out, can you help us with our mission critical areas? Okay, here's what I want you to remember from today's training. The first thing is take the time to do that research and know what's essential to HHS. Know what's essential to HHS's subordinate agencies. And then when you do, speak their language, speak that essential language. Do it in meetings that you have. Do it in RFI responses. Do it in your marketing material. Do it in a proposals that you send back. Make sure that when you're speaking, everybody who reads that or hears you goes, oh, they totally align with our mission. It's not that hard when you take the time to research their language and begin to basically reuse that language in your material. Don't just copy and paste, right? Understand how to reword it. And then number 3, 10x your effort. This is vital. When times are tough, and literally these times are about as tough as they've ever been for government contractors. When times are tough, you have got to 10x your efforts. You cannot sit back and think that things are going to get better. I mentioned earlier about Who Moved My Cheese. When you read this, there's 2 characters, Hem and Haw, who do exactly that. They just sit by the cheese station going, where the hell is my cheese? When's it coming? Why is it cut off? They're dwelling on it. And I get it. I get that feeling. But that's not going to lead to them eating cheese or eating more cheese, right? And so you need to get out, like Sniff and Scurry, I think, are the other 2 characters, and get out of the maze. And the only way you can do that is by 10xing your effort. When you 10x your effort, you will meet the people who want to buy from you. It just takes a lot of effort. That's sales. But you're going to have that success. If you understand that, put 10x your effort into the chat. You can put just 10x. Otherwise, you can 10x your effort in the chat by putting 10x your effort. All right, don't forget about tomorrow's training. It's the Air Force. Don't forget to go to GovCon in a Box to check out your federal visibility score. It's a free score, and we show you exactly what to do. One of our customers just pushed it right to 100, which we were not customers, just somebody in our community pushed it to 100, and they sent me a note this morning, and they were really happy about it. But it makes you more visible to federal buyers when you follow the steps that we give you. Okay, as you head into your day, just remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. Part of the process is ending on time. It's 12:30. I am out of here. I will see you in the next training.